Good evening, everybody. This meeting was already called to order in closed session at 7 p.m. I will go through our standard script. The notice of this meeting was published in the official newspapers, prominently posted in Borough Hall, and filed with the municipal clerk in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act. I have a pledge of allegiance. Councilman Kern?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can we have a roll call, please, Laura?
Sure. Mayor Koth,
Here.
Mr. Berneval,
Here.
Mr. Staff,
Here.
Mr. Tashian,
Here.
Mr. Kern,
Here.
Mr. Gullo,
Here.
Mr. Kelly.
Here.
So, Laura, the proclamation we have, is there anybody here to receive this, or? Okay. So I'm gonna do this down at the, would like to join me? They like that. So, this evening we have a proclamation recognizing National Child Abuse Prevention Month. Whereas children are our nation's most vulnerable members, as well as our nation's most valuable resources, helping to shape the future of New Jersey. And whereas positive childhood experiences like loving caregivers and safe, stable, and nurturing relationships can help mitigate trauma and the negative impact of adverse childhood experiences to promote the social, emotional, and developmental well-being of children. And whereas childhood trauma can have long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects throughout an individual's lifetime and impact future generations of their family. And whereas childhood trauma, including abuse and neglect, is a serious problem affecting every community in the United States, and finding solutions requires input and action from everyone. And whereas children who live in families with access to concrete economic and social supports are less likely to experience abuse and neglect, and whereas prevention is possible because of the partnership created between families, prevention advocates, child welfare professionals, education, health, community, and faith-based organizations, businesses, law enforcement agencies, and local, state, and national governments. And whereas we acknowledge that in order to solve the public health issue of abuse and neglect, we must work together to change hearts and mindsets through storytelling and sharing, center the needs of families, break down bias and barriers, and inspire action from expected and unexpected partners in prevention. And whereas we are committed to advancing equitable, responsive, and effective systems that ensure all children and families are healthy and thriving. And whereas we recognize the need to prioritize kids and invest in more prevention initiatives like home visiting and family strengthening policies, economic supports, and community-based child abuse prevention programs at the national, state, and local levels. Now therefore, I, James Koth, Mayor of the Borough of Oradell, do hereby proclaim April as National Child Abuse Prevention Month in the Borough of Oradell, and urge all citizens to recognize this month by building a narrative of hope for children and families throughout collaboration and the creation of an ecosystem of primary prevention. Does anybody have anything they want to say after?
You're saying, right?
Sure.
Closer.
Microphone's all yours. I'll take one.
Okay. Thank you to the Oradell Mayor and Council for recognizing the month of April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. The Book and Needle Women's Club of Oradell is a strong advocate for the protection of children's rights and has been since the club's inception in 1915. We are a group of active and dedicated women from Bergen County who serve many segments of our community, including veterans, homeless, women who are victims of domestic violence, and several local food pantries, as well as scholarships to local high school students. We welcome new members, so if anyone knows someone who might like to join, please let them know. And we can be contacted through our Facebook page or going on the website, theoradellbookandneedle.org. And if you haven't been past the library, there is a pinwheel garden out in front of the library with the things spinning every day. And that was to recognize Child Abuse Prevention Month. And the pinwheels represent a happy childhood that we wish for all the children. Thank you again for your support. We appreciate it.
Okay, any discussion items that come before the council tonight? If not, do we have any old business? New business?
Mayor, just a couple of things before our next meeting. Just for the public, tomorrow morning, at our Rotary meeting, Bill Sheehan, the Riverkeeper, will be there at 8 o'clock at 700 Kinnecamack Road. So it's always a great presentation about the history of the river, and usually has a slideshow, but very interesting about what's going on that river, and our kayaks, et cetera, right here. And tomorrow for our seniors at Riverdale High School at 5 o'clock is the senior prom. They do a great job over there. The food is wonderful. It's free to residents. They have a big orchestra open to seniors there. So just two items that are tomorrow, just as a reminder. That's it.
Thank you, Councilman Kelly. Anyone else have new business to come before the council? If not, I'll entertain a motion to open to public comment for non-agenda items.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Good evening, Paul Tsunis. Any news on the fair share housing proposal? I'd like to hear something tonight, if you have anything, or if it was a topic of the closed session tonight, if you could tell us the closed session topics. The DPW signs at the DPW, they're in, they look good. The only thing is, it doesn't say no cardboard, and people are still putting cardboard in the paper bin. So we have to say something about that. The other thing is, we're still awaiting the tree plantings at the DPAC area. I don't know, when do we plan to plant trees? When is the season? I think this is probably the season now. I don't know. I'd like to know about that. And also about the water fountain at the DPAC area, when it'll be installed. And like Mr. Kelly said, tomorrow's the senior prom night at 5 o'clock. Wednesday, the 8th, and it's a pretty good thing for seniors, and we have a good time with the high school kids there too. They serve us and everything, and it's really a nice event. Hope people can attend it. I see what's happening in the news these days, and with the stock market going up and down and everything else, and a lot of volatility, and I see that we're going to do something for the working people, and I think he's on his right track. I think Mr. Trump is on the right track on this, because I've been the victim of some of these things myself. I witnessed the closing of a Ford plant. I was a supervisor up there, lost my job, went to Argentina. Then I got another job, and then that job was really something, because I had to teach somebody that was going to take my job. I had to teach them my job, and guess where? It went to Ireland. And so Stryker moved that facility to Ireland. So these are the things that were going on, and today I watched the stuff on the news about the coal mines and stuff, and that these people were losing their jobs. And we are going to reverse this, and I think it's a good thing to get people back to work and to have more jobs. And I also wanted to stress one other thing here is when we buy things, we should buy things here. made here in the United States. It should say made in the USA on there. And at one time, I was the vice president of the IUE of Local 285 in Brooklyn, and we had a saying, I spend it where I make it. And the idea was, spend your money on the products that we're making here. And I think we should do that, and I hope that the town can also do that and not try to go always for the cheapest price or something made in China or Japan or somewhere else, because that takes jobs away from us. And I would like to see that enforced in our town, in buying stuff for our town. And so I wish you all well, and I'll see you at the prom tomorrow night.
Thank you. Anyone else from the audience wish to comment on non-agenda items?
Ori Katzin. Good evening, Council. Good evening, Mayor. I missed last council meeting. It was 6 p.m. and working in a city, so I did not get to speak. But I just quickly mention 2 weeks ago, basically, I wanted to remind everyone about 5 years earlier, March of 2020, where this country has been locked down unnecessarily. A lot of unconstitutional laws, was not really laws, orders were passed. Voices were silenced. I remember that I'm sure most of this town between Jews and Christians, we could not celebrate neither Passover nor Easter, and they said that we cannot even invite people into our home in a holiday like Passover, which is customary to invite. I just want to remind everyone about all those unconstitutional things that were coming down by unelected officials. Most of them were unelected officials. And I do hope this country one day will go back and right the wrong things that were done 5 years ago. The other things that I'm going to touch tonight, as Paul said, I want to talk, also give my input about the tariffs. I do believe that this is the right way, and I can back it up with personal experience that in the 90s, as you know, I ran a business for over 35 years. In the 90s, I used to export some of the goods, and around 2001, no more orders came from overseas to my business. And we used to have 27 employees, and now we have about 1/3 of them. We switched to a different line of products just because we could not compete with the import. I also want to mention, based on what Paul said, spend the money that you make in. You take a look at the strongest financial country in Europe, Germany. Anyone can guess the export ratio as per GDP for Germany? If you can't, it's 47%. That means 47% of their product, of the GDP, is being exported. United States is 11%. That means, and I'm sure a lot of you went overseas. I went to overseas. I went to Europe. I went to Asia. I went to other places, and you cannot see American products. You cannot see cars, neither car nor a lot of other products that we used to make here that are better, much better than some of the products that are being sold overseas. And that's because the rest of the world is being flooded by cheap Chinese goods. Germany and the German people decided about 15 years ago that they're not going to import stuff from China. They're going to make their own goods and buy their own goods, even if it costs more. And that's why they're the strongest country in Europe as far as finance. And if we do the same thing here, we make stuff here, we'll do that. And if we can make the stuff here, the tariffs will cover that. So I think it is the right way, and hopefully it will bring a good result. It may be a little difficult to adjust to that new reality, but hopefully it will benefit all of us in here. And the third thing that I'm going to talk about tonight is the same thing I've been talking about in the past year and a half. I would like the mayor, the council, to really look at the proposal for the ordinance that I sent, and I did send to Tom Kelly this week in email. Mayor, I sent it to you back in August, and I also sent you the email from the Salinas family backing up my efforts. I really think that it is time to do something. Whether you do that thing for the Salinas family or any other thing, the proposal is to honor fallen soldiers or any other person that anyone wishes to honor in a fair and equal basis. Okay, I cannot be the one who promotes who honor Sergeant Salinas by running and carrying his name. I want his name to be honored in this town, and I hope you guys going to do that. Tom, you and I ran together at the 5K and met Dave at the finish line. Steve, I know that you're in charge of the ordinance committee, and I hope you'll do something. And Michael, I know you have primaries this June. Your score sheet is important. People are looking at achievement. So hopefully you'll join me on that too and do something before the primaries so we can all push your nominations forward for this year. Thank you so much.
Anybody else from the public wish to make comment on non-agenda items? If not, I'll entertain a motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we'll look for a motion to open on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Anybody from the public have comment on the consent agenda? Okay,
Motion to close.
Now we have to vote on it.
Ori Katzin. Two items on the agenda. I believe I don't have the sheet on me. One of them is the cap. One is raising the cap by, what is that, 3%? Is that 3% you're
this is
asking?
the consent agenda, Ori. That's not on the consent agenda.
Oh, it's not on a consent agenda? I'm sorry.
Have a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Laura, do we have any correspondence? It's an ordinance. It is not on the consent agenda. There's a separate time to talk about it.
No correspondence,
Any minutes?
not this month.
Okay, now we're at the consent agenda.
Just one
Sorry.
thing, you may have to pull off 25-113, because as you're introducing the budget by title, I have to read the amount. So you could either amend it, and I can tell you the amount, we can add it, so you can do it, or we can pull it and I can read it by title, because it's supposed to be read by title. I didn't realize it was on the consent till today.
What's the difference in the options you've offered?
I believe under budget law, you're supposed to read it by title, so it should be separate, so we can just pull it off consent.
That's
And then I
fine.
can just read the title,
Yep.
yeah.
I had a question on 25-114. Do we have any financials about whether this is budgeted, where it's coming from? The information on this was very sparse.
Chief Financial Officer, did you run the number?
I did. I did before the meeting, I
So this is in a budgeted, funded account?
Yeah, it's budgeted in the roads, part-time sub account, for 16,800. So if we're to hire this part-time person at $25 an hour for 28 hours a week, part-time employment, the maximum is for 6 months, then that will equal to 16,800.
So
That's,
what you're saying is one employee is gonna chew up the entire line item in the budget for part-time help?
yeah, because right now the request is for one part-time, yes, that will chew up the entire part-time line item.
And there's no other planned part-time hires in the DPW?
At this point, no.
Well, we're talking about what's budgeted. So unless you have something budgeted in the line, this is your hire for the year.
Katie, just for clarity, you said in the roads budget, is there any other part-time employees in any of the other DPW budgets?
I think there's one more in the parks and playgrounds budget for part-time, but we already have a part-time person in there, that does the field maintenance.
I don't have it.
He does it on the weekends and, you know, he does it on the weekends.
Okay.
So that's another part-time line item in parks and playgrounds and roads.
It's not picking up, can we use the mic?
Oh, sure.
My final question is there a title that goes along? Is this a laborer hire?
He's actually, this person is a heavy equipment operator, has the license. I don't know about the title he has, that he would be using.
So here's my issue with this. There's not a lot of backup. There's not an hourly rate on a memo. There's no line item for an account number. We don't have a job description. We don't have a lot of things. So unless somebody's definitively answering these questions, I mean, the council votes on this, not me, but I would want all the information. So are you definitively, you have an account, you have an hourly rate, you have a title? Your job, have we filled this position previously? Is this a seasonal, an annual thing we hire?
I'm not sure if this is a seasonal.
Jim, it was in the notes that, we've moved the part-timer from last year, thank you, from last year to a full-timer, and this guy is going into the part-time slot. It is a job that we have had during the summer, for a couple of years.
Right, but there's no document that tells us that. Right.
It was actually in the note, in the, piece, in Dan's letter to us, in the packet.
With all the financials and other things?
Not all the financials, but the background of him
The
replacing.
application is right here. I have it.
Okay, I've asked my questions. Anybody have questions on other items on the consent agenda?
Well, Mayor, you know, with regards to that resolution, 25-114, you know, I wasn't sure as well about the financing, but thanks to, you know, Katie over here clarifying, I'm okay with using those funds for this particular position this time.
Okay. So there's no further questions on any of the items on the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnaval?
Yes.
Mr. Staff?
Yes.
Mr. Tashian?
Yes.
Mr. Kern?
Yes.
Mr. Gullo?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Okay. How do you want to handle the,
I just
Title
wanna,
only?
yeah, I'll just make the announcement that, the resolution 25-113 is being read by title only, which is the introduction of the 2025 budget in the amount of $21,196,970. You don't have to re-adopt it, because we did it, or I can call a roll, whichever,
why don't you call a roll?
sure. I just need a motion for that.
So moved?
Second?
Okay, Mr. Carnaval?
Yes.
Mr. Staff?
Yes.
Mr. Tashian?
Yes.
Mr. Kern?
Yes.
Mr. Gullo?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Just for the folks in the audience who may want to ask questions on the budget, what is our public hearing date for the budget?
According to the advertisement that was sent over by the Borough Auditor today, it's, the public hearing on the budget is May 13th, 2025 at 7:30 and will be advertised as such.
Okay, thank you. Council President Carnival, ordinances?
Yes, we have two ordinances being introduced for first reading. Mayor, ordinance number 25-2 is ready for first reading.
Will the Borough Clerk read ordinance number 25-2 by title only?
An ordinance authorizing the Borough of Oradell to acquire certain real property for public purposes identified as a portion of Block 407, Lot 4, Oradell, New Jersey pursuant to the Local Lands and Buildings Law under NJSA 40A 12-1 et sec.
You want to provide an explanation, Council?
Sure. What this ordinance is, under the New Jersey Local Land and Buildings Law, municipalities, generally speaking, when they acquire property, have to do it by ordinance. The subject property is adjacent to us here. It's essentially what is commonly referred to as the rectory section. That's one lot, however, so there has to be a subdivision application made by the town, but this is the first step. The contract has been negotiated, the material terms agreed to, but under the Local Land and Buildings Law, it has to be actually formalized by ordinance, so there'd be a public hearing in 2 weeks or so, and that will enable the town to proceed. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the $500,000 purchase price is all being funded by grant money.
Correct.
That's my understanding,
That's correct.
which is a good thing.
Thank you for the explanation. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that ordinance number 25-2 be passed on first reading and published in the Monday, April 14th, 2025 edition of the Bergen Record.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnaval?
Yes.
Mr. Staff?
Yes.
Mr. Tastian?
Yes.
Mr. Kern?
Yes.
Mr. Gullo?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-3 is ready for first reading.
Will the Borough Clerk read ordinance number 25-3 by title only?
Calendar year 2025 ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank under NJSA 40A:4-45.14.
Bill, would you like to provide an explanation, or would it be better for our CFO to do so? Whoever.
Katie's probably forgotten more about this than I know, but either way, I can.
Okay.
Yeah, I can do it.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is a COLA ordinance that is recommended by the auditors that we do this every year before the introduction of the budget. The local government cap law. Now, this COLA ordinance is specifically for the appropriation cap. It allows the municipal budget to go up to 2.5%. The mayor and council can adopt an ordinance to increase that 2.5% of the COLA increase to 3.5%. So we will bank that 1% of difference on the side. So should we ever run into any appropriation cap issues, we can use that cap bank to offset the cap issues that we may encounter down the road. As of this year, we don't have any cap issues. We don't have any levy cap issues nor COLA cap issues. So we're set for those. We're under the limitation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If I could just add, this doesn't authorize the governing body to actually spend that.
Yes.
It's
Correct.
really kind of like an insurance policy.
Correct.
God forbid there's some unforeseen situation where the borough, some type of disaster or what have you, where they need the money. So
Correct, yeah.
It doesn't mean that it's getting spent. That would have to then be duly appropriated at the appropriate time.
That's right. It's not sitting on the borough's books anywhere. It's just a number that is being monitored by the state. And should we ever need it for the budget, then we will request the bank number from the state to utilize that. Also for this bank, it goes away after 2 years. So if we have this 147,049, this bank amount is available for banking for 2025, and if we don't use it in 2027, that number goes away.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is just first reading, so when it's up for adoption. I'd like to make a motion that ordinance number 25-3 be passed on first reading and published in the Monday, April 14th, 2025 edition of the Bergen Record.
So moved. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnaval?
Yes.
Mr. Staff?
Yes.
Mr. Tashian?
Yes.
Mr. Kern?
Yes.
Mr. Gullo?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
And lastly, Mayor, we have ordinance number 25-1 ready for final reading.
Will the Borough Clerk read ordinance number 25-1 by title only?
An ordinance repealing ordinance 22-8 and amending chapter 270 of the Code of the Borough of Oradell entitled Trees.
Has ordinance number 25-1 been published in full, posted on the bulletin board, and made available to members of the general public?
Yes.
Is there any member of the general public who wishes to be heard concerning this ordinance? Please come forward.
Ori Katzin. Okay. So looking at the codes of the town, the definition codes, it does not specify tree. The one missing information about the definition of tree in, I believe, 270-2, it doesn't specify like minimum heights. If you look at shrubs, it tells you up to 10 feet. Therefore, if a homeowner wants to remove a tree, a wild tree that's growing on in a backyard, and that tree is 9 feet, does he need to ask, or does he need to basically take it upon himself or herself to cut it down? Of course, you don't want people to just estimate the trees in the back and said, oh, it does not fall under the definition of tree. So I would suggest that a definition of tree is going to be specified, like minimum heights, that above that height you cannot take down a tree, in case you have one. And the second thing, what I wanted to mention on that, person taken, I'm not sure if it's 270-2 or 270-4. Okay, in one of them, they're talking about preventing damages to trees on public properties. And one of the things there, it even says not allow any animals to do. And I don't know if the definition of animals, meaning a domestic animals, you don't want my dog or someone's dog to damage the properties of the town, or if I see a deer eating some of the young trees that are around my house, that were planted around my house, can I chase that deer and take it down? I don't want anyone calling the police saying, you know, someone here chasing the deer, and I can run, let me tell you this, and chase the deers, but I'm not really sure what the definition, preventing an animals from damaging a tree on public properties. So that is one point that you may want to clarify. Thanks.
I'd like to make a motion that ordinance number 25-1 be passed on final reading and published in the Bergen Record on Monday, April 14th, 2025.
Second.
We have a roll call, please.
Mr. Carnaval?
Yes.
Mr. Staff?
Yes.
Mr. Tashian?
Yes.
Mr. Kern?
Yes.
Mr. Gullo?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
That's all I have for this evening, Mayor.
Thank you, Council President. Okay, we are going to transition from business at this point to back to our budget hearings with our departments. Mr. Hines, it's your show. First up is the building department.
Yes, sir. Mr. Demke.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for listening to my requests. I have four departments. I'll go kind of quick so we can go through those fairly quickly. The first one, the construction department itself, this year, between this year and last year, we've had an increase of $4 million, and that's construction costs, and it would be values of construction, total construction. They're very busy these past couple of years, but especially this past year. So we've been in the black for the first time in a while. We've had 508 UCC permits, that's state permits, and 89 updates, with an overall of 597 UCC permits. And one of those, which is a large unit, Fay Place, brought in a lot for that development. We've issued 609 municipal applications, that's driveways and sidewalks and fences and so forth. We've also had 31 violations. We are issuing violations for permits that have not been taken out for, say, mechanicals on properties when we do a reinspection or a resale inspection. There's been, the zoning board has had 10 applications. Again, United Way, which is still up, and we have down here 420, but that's been transferred over to the planning board. We've had 5 planning board applications, including a large project for 90 Kinderkamack Road. And the fees collected increased 11%, as I previously stated, generating more revenue to the borough. We're one of the busiest offices in the municipality since we have 4 departments. The women in the office are exceptionally adverse in the jobs that they do. We work very well together, and we have job descriptions that are specific, but we still tend to get everybody up and running together if need be. And top goals. Digitizing the files, we've been through that for a while. The cabinets, filing cabinets, and the basement archives have somewhat been overloaded. As far as some of the projects, when we were talking with the proposed contractors, one being DocuWare, I believe it is, they would be producing or submitting to us a large scanner for plans, so we can digitize the plans, put those in files, instead of having them bulked up and keep them in our office and then store them downstairs. They also would supply us with a smaller scanner so we could, again, digitize any documents coming into our office. They suggested, and I think it's a good idea, start from this point forward in all the digitizing, and possibly during the summer have a intern go through our block and lot files, cull those files, and digitize those files. That will be years to accomplish, but we have to start at some point. And as far as the basement, that's I'm going to leave that alone. The SDL portal needs to be brought up, and part of that is the hosting, which we've discussed in the past. And the hosting, I'll go through a little bit later, helps that SDL portal, and then residents are capable of doing permits online. At some point, they can do inspections, requests online. We would have to keep that at they can't make the inspection online, they would make a request. And then we would have to view that portal daily and then inform them if they have their inspections. It also will tell them at that point, if we do go with the hosting capability, we will be able to give the inspection requests and the inspection issues, whether they passed or failed, in that short a time, directly on the site. And the last is the municipay. I don't know whether the borough is still looking to do the municipay. It's the credit card system. It works very well, and it's seamless with the SDL software. And it would be and you have fire prevention. They have a lot of fees that come in, health department, and I think that would be a good fit for this whole hosting program. Okay, the operating budget, uniform construction code, it will be first. And Gabby's done a great job doing this presentation. We got it. Okay. This is the department for the construction. That's a UCC. It's a Uniform Construction Code. That's the state codes. So that's all building permits that have been presented to the department. And these are basically kind of flat in what we're looking for. So I don't know whether you want me to go through those items. Or if anybody has any questions. The equipment, software, some of these things we still might be able to adjust a little bit more. I can talk to the CFO and the administrator, as far as miscellaneous seminars and equipment purchases. That will depend upon what we do with the digitizing. But everything else pretty much stays the same.
Steve, is it possible to break out the software lease, the software subscriptions that you actually, the seats that you have? Because I'd just be curious to make sure that you're using all the licenses that you have within the department.
We're using all ours. There was a question, Rosa had a question because they were trying to get OEM a seat on SDL. And I believe they thought there were 11 seats, and Rosa only had 10 that she could account for. As far as our office, I believe we have 5. Yes. And that would be, the people in my office. And then we also have the remote, which is, we work off of the iPads. So those are my numbers for the seats. Some of the SDL seats kind of come out of our office also, but not part of our office. But those are the items that we use.
I just want to be sure that we're efficiently accounting for the licenses that we have in software and across the entire borough. And I think that just, Katie, if we could, maybe next year just break that down a little bit further, because it's a little bit confusing with equipment purchases and software leases.
Rosa has been talking with SDL even the past week in regards to lining up who owns what seat and how many seats we need. So we're trying to get, as I said, OEM their seat, but we're trying to finalize how many seats we have.
Is there a way to see usage on those seats? I know you guys are using your 5 and probably cranking them out. It's the other 4, or you said 11 seats or 10 seats?
I believe 11, yeah.
Okay.
Potentially 11.
I'd love to see the usage on those other seats. There's gotta be a way where they can see logins.
I'm sure, but I can't answer that.
So who owns that relationship from a borough standpoint? You have the 4 seats, but yet we have someone in OEM, 5, someone in OEM. Katie, from like an overall structure standpoint, if someone from, was gonna come just in general to talk about an overall contract, who do they go to?
It would be my office, but it would be Rosalia Bob.
Okay.
She has been the forefront on SDL, and I believe that, at some point in line, they made her the administrator to the, to the project.
Okay.
So everything,
Can you ask that question then about usage,
yes, surely.
if you don't mind?
Mhm.
I just think it would be good to know that if there are seats that are being unused, although assigned to somebody, we can very easily reassign or lower the amount of seats we have.
Steve, is this a software purchase, or are we paying as we go software as a service?
You're talking about SDL
SDL.
seats?
Yes.
It's a yearly service. They've been rather lenient in regards to our municipality. I think it went to 10 max, but they do negotiate, if you want to do a few more seats, instead of going to a large municipality, which is a little bit more costly.
Right, well, you're not buying the software, you're paying for the amount of seats you use on their system, right?
Correct.
Right, so that's probably better classified as a subscription than a purchase, right? To
Yes.
answer your question about breaking things out. The one question I had is that, in 2024, you budgeted 29.5 for this. You've asked to go up to 31, but you only spent 11.8. Why are we increasing this if we came in pretty substantially under our budgeted number last year?
Because we're looking for the digitizing. That's where it didn't happen last year. And I think it's well overdue, and I think, this mayor and council are amenable to starting the program.
So is that you're budgeting to use a service to digitize the documents or purchase equipment?
Well, it would be partially for the equipment, and it would be a service, a DocuWare would be a service. And they're the ones that would do, when we do all the digitizing ourselves, it's their program that we're using.
So you would pay them in a way similar that you pay SDL?
Yes.
You pay for seats. So my question on the purchase of the equipment is, Katie, is that a capitalized item at that point if we're buying scanners and other computer equipment to do the work with?
Could be.
We have been in the past with all the servers upgrades, computer related, any programs that we do put into the capital budget. So we have done that in the past. If anything, that's more than 5 years of useful life.
Okay.
And then Steve, going forward though, the DocuWare will then become an annual subscription fee.
Yeah, similar to SDL.
Correct, okay.
Yes, yes.
So that's another line item next year that would be new.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so these basically went through the line items. Do you want to go through those?
I don't think you need to go through them one by one. I think if there's something when you're going through the cover sheet for that division of your department, we can just poke out some questions if we have them.
Sure. Code enforcement operations, very minimal. Really hasn't changed. Any,
You reduced it $1, that's a bonus.
want to do that? Make it 50. Okay?
Steve, what does that job entail, Steve? Just, is that going around and inspecting, or?
Code enforcement is, yes, basically if someone makes a complaint in regards to ordinances or, failure to obtain permits, things like that, that would be code enforcement. That's different than property maintenance.
Okay, and that's a recent hire, I guess, a couple of years ago, and that is, So that starts by a proactive call into the borough, this guy's fence is over my yard, or something like that? or-
Mostly, or if I'm driving around and I see something, then I'll note it. Try to get a handle before it starts to be a complaint.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the position there.
That's me. That's me.
Is it, well, what am I doing? I'm looking at, Tina, the technical, that's in your office, Tina's in your office.
Tina, yes, and I think, well, Katie's the one that sort of separates the salaries for that, but, yeah, that would be, that would be,
Tina Oliveri, okay,
yeah.
okay. So you're the one, obviously, you're on the road, right? There's no one else on the road?
Yeah, I'm the one they yell at.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay? Planning Board. Planning Board has been extremely busy this year, and I foresee that in the future. As far as the items, it's pretty much flat, but this is more of a guessing game because of if someone wants to, or if the municipality wants to look at redevelopment in certain areas, or rezoning certain areas for different purposes, or people presenting applications, large applications. That would all fall under Planning Board. So in the past, we've been pretty good with the items listed. I think in a concern we might want to look at is preparation of the master plan, and that's always a question of, how far does the planning board want to take in regards to the master plan? The master plan has a number of elements that need to be looked at, and they tend to get lengthy, and you might need professionals at some point, or you certainly will need professionals to give feedback and information. And that's it. Any questions on planning board?
Where are we carrying the costs for the funding of the housing element plan that needs to be prepared? Is that in the master plan line?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
And the housing element and fair share, is that what you're talking about, Mayor?
Yes.
That was done by the mayor and council, and the planning board didn't have too much to do with that, so I think speaking with Katie, we'd rather have everything, in one line item, being the master plan, but in order for me to sign off on purchase orders or vouchers, I need to know what those, what it's for. And a lot of times I don't get that information because it was just strictly, mayor and council and professionals. So if that's the case, then maybe we should have someone review it before it sends it to me, someone, within the mayor and council, and agree that what this voucher is, and then if they want me to sign off on it because it comes out of this budget, I don't have an issue with that.
Thank you. You may.
Steve, so you talked when you started off about revenue.
About
I
what?
know revenue, you were talking about revenue. Is it time to review our fees, or are we up to, would you say we're in the middle of the pack?
The state says that we should review UCC fees every 3 years. And that gives you a balance of, so this was a plus year. You know, the past were negatives. If it continues to be negative years, then yes, the fee should be looked at and increased. I don't think it's needed at this time, but certainly the municipal fees should be looked at. You know, they're, as far as resales and items like that, we could adjust those.
So, I'm gonna speak for myself, I guess, but really, if the council is amenable, I think it's time to see where our fees are
Okay.
compared to some neighboring towns, just to make sure we're in line and.
Yes. That's what we normally do. If that's the case, we will take a survey of municipalities
I'm only one person making the question.
in the area, but that's normally what we do.
When was the last time you guys looked at the fees? You said every 3 years, right?
That's for the UCC fees.
Right.
As far as the municipal fees,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say maybe 4 or 5 years ago, maybe.
So there's two. Anybody else would like them to review it, or?
I think we can look at it, Roger. I don't think it's predicated on the budget because.
No, I agree, but, I think having that as a activity would be good to see,
Yeah, I would say you should look at holistically fees across the borough,
so.
right? If they, I mean, some towns introduce a fee schedule every January as part of a reorganization and just, does maintenance on those fees. Some of them are adjusted, some aren't. But it's, it gets a fresh look every now and then.
That's kind of the request, because I think it's been a while, so. Perfect. Thanks, Steve. Seems like there's consensus.
Zoning board is the same as planning board, pretty much flat. There's been a lot of applications coming in front of the planning board, and mostly residential. But we have 2 of them right now that have been lengthy, and professional fees get involved with a lot of that. A lot of the fees that the professionals will present to the borough are taken out of the escrow of the applicant. It's if the board wants to get their own professionals, they can't mandate that the applicant pay for those professionals. It has to be paid out of the borough. And that's, any questions? I think that's it. SDL, again, the hosting, I think is something we should really look at. We've been looking at that for years. There's, a program, Rosa had the items, for, and this is back in, it was last year. So 1 year is close to 35,000. 5 years would be 195,000. But what the hosting does, all the information goes to the cloud. You don't have a server here. If something goes down here, we're out of business in the department. But SDL will pick up on that. They're good on. These are all the rate cards and. Annual cloud hosting, this is for 13 named users. So this is 11,000, but it's questions and answers. But it goes on a yearly basis, and I think the seats are the main concern, and how many you have and how many go on that hosting site. This is TGI, and this was the DocuWare that I was speaking about in regards to digitizing everything, and this is their their program. They gave us a proposal and I asked them if they could extend the year, so it's a 36-month term. It would be $773 a month for that digitizing purposes and using their system. If it was for 60 months, it would be $703 a month. They're cloud-based. We can use it mobilely out in the field. And this coincides and works seamlessly, I hope, they say, with spatial data. So if you have something with, a DocuWare and you filed it, digitized it, and you want to transfer it, or if it's with spatial data and you want to transfer it to DocuWare, it can be done relatively easy. So they say. These are the items that they would be giving us. These are the scanner copiers. They told us we shouldn't be using the large scanner for smaller items, that they would be giving us a smaller scanner also. But that is with us keeping the copier printer we have in our office. That's out of lease, but it's working well, so I don't think we need to look at that, but these items would be good. And once we get rid of some of the files, we're kind of tight in the office. It's going to be difficult finding places for these, but when we were looking at it, we think we have areas that we could put these in. So basically what they would do is anything that comes in, any permits, anything that comes in, before it goes through the process of review, it goes through these scanners, and it goes to to a file. You can choose a file that you want, and it's one of these systems that's easy to pick up a file or find a file. You can do it by name, you can do it by block and lot, you can do it by address, so it's easy to retrieve. That's the size of it. Okay. Fovionics, I don't think we're still looking at that. I don't know. That's the one that was going to take all the files and take them off-site and store them for ourselves. I think that would be the last choice we would have. Maybe you want to do it for the basement area. I don't know, but that was in there for the last presentation. And they have a list of everything that they scan. And this is Municipay. So Municipay, as you know, is the credit program. This is the one that goes, again, seamlessly with spatial data. It's something that I would recommend. I know that you're looking at other type of systems, but this coincides with spatial data. It's not part of them. It's a company that, they regard as highly using. And that's all.
Thank you.
Any
Anybody have
questions?
any further questions for Mr. Depkin?
No, but thank you for all that good information.
Very good. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, next up is our tax collector, Mrs. Walker.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. The good news for tax collecting is I don't have a big wish list, just necessity, which the bulk of my budget is mailing out the tax bills. So, in that regard, there would be a 3% increase. Edmunds is our software company. They run all of our billing. They do estimated and final billing for us, from soup to nuts, envelopes, indices, tax bills. I do the preparation and hit a button, and they do the rest. And the good news about Edmunds, all the forms that we use are in the software, so we no longer have to order special forms from MGL, which used to be pricey. And I'm happy to say that tax sales are very few. In 2022, we had 0. Last year, we had 1. So we don't spend a lot of money as far as advertising and running tax sales. And what else? I did talk to someone at the state. I know Jim had a question, the mayor had a question last year about the possibility of emailing tax bills. It's still on their radar. So the only thing they could say, it's on their radar. If we wanted to do email, we would have to have some kind of form where residents would sign off saying they didn't want a tax bill, and I would probably target those advice only where they have a mortgage company. That would be like the first step, but for right now, we're stuck with snail mail until they progress a little further in that regard. Trying to think of anything else there is for us. So everything stays flat. I have most of my CEUs, so there's a few, and my license renewal. Other than that, the software maintenance is fairly flat. We finance and tax collectors share the software maintenance. We already know the actuals on that, so that went up $100. So again, the bulk is mailing. Everything else is either flat or went down. The advertising's minimal due to tax sale. Printing and stationery, since Edmunds does our billing with envelopes, I don't have printing and stationery fees. So that's it. I am proud to say we have a 98.4% collection rate. And any questions?
Vicki, I have one on the tax bill preparation.
Sure.
Does that dollar amount include the postage, or that's to just get the bills prepped for
The
mailing?
postage is extra. So, yeah, we have to pay for the postage. We send a separate check to them. So let me just, good question.
And this is not done in-house, this is done with
This
an
is
external
done,
vendor?
Edmunds, once I get the tax rate from Mod 4 from the assessor, I run the tax bills, we proof it, and then they get ready to mail. Let me just look at the price on the postage. The postage is typically $1,800, and in a perfect world, one of these days, we won't have to mail estimated bills, because that adds to our expense, since the county hasn't struck a rate. And our position is we want to collect the money sooner than later, rather than wait for the final bills to come out.
Any questions?
Any questions?
For Vicki?
That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next up is Finance. This is Chen, our CFO.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. I'm here to present the finance budget. So the finance budget, the salary line item it's pretty much, there's an increase of $6,500 from 2024's budget amount, and that's because of the cost of living adjustment. That all the 2025 salaries have been set for 2025 budget. We have PBA, UPSEU, and the non-union employees have been set for 2025, so the salary is all set. So that's just the cost of living adjustments for the $6,000. For the O&E, There's actually a reduction of $3,150. It's just that one of the things is that we're removing the IT support. In the past, we've been billed by DTM, our IT vendor. All the IT support phone calls we have been billing by per hourly, but now because of last year, I think the last quarter of 2024, they have changed their billing system that now it's a flat rate of a monthly flat rate, and that money is being budgeted in administration's budget, so that's being removed from the finance budget. Everything else is pretty much flat. Vicky did mention about admins being, there's about $100 to $200 increase for our program for 2025, and that's in the budget. Other than that, I mean, it's a minus $3,000, and overall a finance budget of 1% increase. The $6,000 from salaries and wages, subtracting $3,000 decrease in O&E, an overall increase in finance budget is $3,400. The next category is the audit services. That is pretty much set by resolution. We have our Lurch, Vincing, and Bliss as the auditing firm, and the fee it's set by resolution at the beginning of the rework meeting. The professional services, that's additional service that the auditing firm provides to do the financial statements for our LoSAP. They do financial statements, they're auditing the LoSAP program for us. So that's additional $1,500. But other than that, it's pretty flat. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions for Katie?
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
Thanks, Katie.
All right, next up, health. Melissa.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Melissa. I'm the new registrar for the Board of Health. It's nice to meet you all. My budget's pretty simple. It's lower than last year's budget with a total of $58,647. I didn't really get a chance to do anything to the budget besides talking to Katie and Ed about adding Adobe as a miscellaneous, which is great to have it. And I didn't get to add something I'm really interested in, and I don't have it on the handouts you guys have. But it's basically a software called GovPilot, and I would really like to request this just to see if we can discuss it at the next meeting or probably at the Board of Health meeting, which it would be very beneficial to the public. It will facilitate services for them. They will be able to do it They can still come in person, but they will be able to do it online, and then it will go through me. I received 3 different codes, which I can email to you, and let me know so I can give you more information. Any questions?
I just have a question about that in particular, and maybe we should look at it. I'm not saying that MuniPay is for everyone, but there probably has to be some type of platform that municipalities are working that can kind of consume all of these services.
So the council authorized administration to go out for an RFP for a third-party card processor.
Okay.
So I believe that's hopefully in the process, and we're looking for that. That's the third-party clearinghouse between the platform and the quote-unquote user, the customer.
Okay.
Melissa, one question I would have is, so I'm familiar with GovPilot. Do you know if SDL also has this component?
I look into it. Actually, Rosa from the building department helped me, and they do not offer anything for vital statistics, unfortunately. But GovPilot has unlimited users, and they connect to different departments, which is great because at some point, we always go through different departments, and that's great to have.
Thank you.
Melissa, how you doing? I haven't met you before. Can you just give me a quick rundown of how you interact with the public? I know, and Mayor, if you can educate me, we have a contract with the county, and then we have you. And in terms of, when and how do you interact with the public? Is it proactive, or is it you're at Borough Hall or at your senior center, or just give me a 2-minute?
I come in twice a week on Thursdays and Tuesdays and Thursdays.
You come into this
and-
building?
Yes.
Into the Borough Hall?
Yes, and I'm in the clerk's office. And I practically reply to all the emails throughout the days, anytime possible. And I always let them know, please reach out to me via email because it's the faster way for me to get back to them. Because I cannot, I'm able to get the voicemails, but I'm not able to call them back. I only have my personal phone number, and if to do that, I will have to be in the office to call them. So I always encourage them to send me an email if possible.
But in terms of health services, I guess, is that your role in terms, are we proactive if a resident needs services, or is it more?
Yes, we are. Do you have something specific in
No,
mind?
I mean, mental health or things, those types of, is it anything, does it run the gamut?
Yes, we have several programs. We actually have the Board of Health, which if something happens, if anyone needs help, we go through the Board of Health, and council member staff is actually part of the Board of Health, and he helps, and we have more board members that facilitate anything to the residents.
Okay. So it's Tuesdays and Thursdays you're here, okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Tom, we can run programs, but we can't give out advice or things
Yeah.
like that. We can guide them into certain directions or what have you, but we don't
In terms of having a
we don't
registered
dispense-
nurse or that
Yeah,
type of
we
thing.
run programs like flu shots, awareness, obviously.
Blood pressure and.
Dog tags, yeah. We arrange those services to the seniors and so forth, but we do not dispense advice, if you will.
Yeah, do some boroughs, did I think in the past, some boroughs have a part-time nurse that's, again, just some, or no? Or they go to the county, or do we know that?
I think they just go to the local, to be honest, a local minute clinic and
Yeah.
go there.
Any other questions? All righty. You all
Thank
have
you,
a good
Melissa.
night.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Okay, next is OPTV. Nick?
Well, my budget this year is rather straightforward in that I need two new computers. One right now is an XP computer. The other one is a Windows 7. So I think they're pretty much at the end of their life at this point. One of them actually prints the DVDs that we use, plus does general work and some editing. It has a feed that can go into our video switcher so we can put programming from it directly to our switcher. The other one is primarily doing editing, but also controls YouTube when we're on the air. So basically, that's it. I need relatively fast computers because of the fact that I want to do video editing. Video editing requires a better video card, much more storage space, and obviously a faster microprocessors to handle the video. Software programs at this point have really gotten quite large as well, and they require more power. And as I said, these two are just limping along right now. Second thing is production desk. The production desk we have in there is actually not. We scrounged an old table for the switcher. We had a donated workstation from a prior member of OPTV, and we're sort of outgrown it right now. So I need a larger workspace to work in there. So that's what I'm looking at this point, to replace that and get a production desk that will allow us to put some equipment in and make it more user-friendly. Third thing, a new camera and tripod, and that is for remote use. The one we have, we bought in 2006, which was an original camera that we actually even used here in this room. It's obviously old. It's an analog camera, and some of the things on it are not really working very well anymore besides. So those are the three things that I'm asking for in this budget. Any questions on it?
Questions for Nick? Nick, maybe you can just educate us a little bit on what is in the miscellaneous category, since that seems to wrap up all of your non-personal services side of the budget.
I don't see where I had the miscellaneous and what I put in.
Well, there's a line item here for $14,521 miscellaneous.
That sounds like it's operational.
It is. This
Yeah,
is the operating budget we're talking about.
operational. Okay, yeah, operational. We, first of all, we have a service contract with Telview to maintain our server. Also, they do updates on the server about 3-4 times a year. And if anything goes wrong with the server at this point, they replace it, they overnight it, whatever that has to be done, and we don't have any additional charges for it. Plus, we have our Cloudcast, which allows us to send it down to Princeton. As you see, it's coming back on our website right now, and that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Also, the VOD service comes through that, so that anything in the last 5 years that you would like to see, town council, zoning board, planning board, special events, things of that nature, you can actually see it on our website. Then, as of a couple years ago, we are doing closed captioning. So closed captioning is in that budget as well. Right now, we are doing it, as I said, for about 2 years. Coming up shortly, and they're debating this in Washington at this point, they may be mandatory for all our stations to have to do that, that is to say, all our PEG stations. So we got to jump on it, in that we're learning how to work it and make sure it works. And for us, it is working. Matter of fact, I've gotten a number of comments from people, either by way of mail or by speaking to them, thanking me for putting it up because of the fact that they are hard of hearing, and with them it helps out quite a bit. So I was kind of glad to hear about that as well.
Nick, I got a question. Are we doubling up on the services because we're also using Google as well? I mean, YouTube as well?
No,
Correct?
not right now.
Okay.
No, because YouTube, as a matter of fact, is also a little thing. I don't know if you've actually seen it, but they are going to probably, and they haven't specified when, start charging for streaming services. So if you want to watch this on YouTube, it's going to cost you.
But they're storing our data right now, YouTube.
They're
correct?
storing, yeah, the raw footage.
Okay.
Yeah. Where the other one, through Telview, it's chopped so that it's the meeting starts on time, does the introduction, tells you what it is, has an ending, so forth. And they're like, say if we have a closed session, which the zoning board has quite often, we can clock wipe it so we eliminate the dead air space, and you can just watch it from one end to the other without having to wait 10 minutes or whatever it takes for.
So the difference is the editing.
Yeah, big difference.
Well, you could post edited feed.
Yeah, but the distribution on it is not as easy, because when I edit, I send it up to Telview. They caption it, encode it for video on demand, then it gets sent back down to our server for air.
Okay.
So that's all in one function.
So would it be right to assume your explanation of requesting new computers, production desks, the camera, those are capital items that you'd like to see? They're not captured in your operating budget, correct?
No, that's not operating, that's just capital.
Nick, you said Telview holds it for 5 years, right? We have an archive of 5 years on the website?
Oh, that's what I do. We can have it do longer, but I'm holding that right now. It can be infinite if you want, you just have to pay extra per year to store all the footage down there.
And what happens if something happens to Telview? Where does our data go?
Well, I also have it backed up. That's the other thing I bought this past year is an archive server that takes our Telview information that I have on our working server, stores it on the RAID server so that we don't lose it, and we always have access to it. And what's nice about this particular one is that even though it sends it offline into the RAID server, it gives you an indication in the menu of the Telview server that if you want to pull it back, say, well, okay, here it's grayed out, says it's archived. All I have to do is click on it and schedule it, and it automatically will pull it back from the RAID server and ready to be played out again.
And we have redundancy in the borough that we can actually access, let's say, 8 years ago, information, Laura?
Minutes are forever, so we can do minutes based off of the recording.
Okay.
We also have a disc that Nick provides to my office for after he edits, so we do have it digitally as well. So if we have to go back to the recording, we do have it, and then we reduce it to the required minutes as well.
A disk, we can't cloud, is it cloud? It's not cloud-based then.
I mean, we
CD?
could upload them
He cuts the
if we
DVD.
want to.
That's my point.
But they are stored, I do have them for, I mean, as long as I've been here.
Yeah, I make 2 versions of TVDs so that those are archived. And then, of course, if something goes bad and it has to be retrieved, which has actually happened already. We have a couple DVDs that went bad. I had to make new DVDs by recalling it off our server itself.
Because like with buildings and paper, this with DVD, I'm just concerned that in a few years from now, it's gonna be obsolete.
Right.
And we need to have some
It's
kind
why,
of a.
in all honesty, it's why the statutes have never been amended to discuss cloud-based anything or software-based anything, and that's why the permanent records of the borough, of any municipality, are still paper minutes that are stored.
Paper, but DVD, and my concern
It's
is.
not required that you have it, I mean, there are some towns that don't even have
Okay.
recordings of their meetings, so we just have another layer of documents or.
Yeah, I have it backed up 3 ways right now.
The borough should have access to it.
Okay, any other questions for Nick?
Could be over.
Thank you, Nick.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hines?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Every town I've been to, there are 2 departments that are crucial to the success of an administrator's administration, and that's DPW superintendent and the chief financial officer. So tonight you've seen the result of hearings that began in February with department heads that included meetings with each individual department, questions and answers from the chief financial officer, and meetings with the auditor, in fact, several, before this work product was presented. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about administration and recreation. But I do want to commend the chief financial officer, who actually was the pilot, was happy to be a navigator or a co-pilot. So, administration, there was a salary increase new for this year. We were mandated by the state to add a municipal housing liaison, which was part of the legislation for affordable housing. And that was required to be made by February 15th. We did achieve that nomination and approval. And in addition, you will notice in the administration, we've had some increases, something new. We're looking to increase in the dues and subscription a software project that would allow us to track our projects, of which in Oradell we have many. And this has been kind of led by the confidential assistant that I have, who's proficient in this. So that would be something new that could be quite useful for the borough. Obviously, there are increases you can't stop. 2 cents more for a postage stamp. Professional services, we were able to cap after negotiation with our IT service. They had been using a corporate model, which, not condemning that, we work on a municipal model in the sense that we had employees reluctant to call our IT for support, including small things like password problem, because they were being charged by the quarter hour. So the administration office negotiated with them to cap their fees, including visits on a regular basis at no charge, and on minor issues, no charge. Difficulty opening the computer, getting into your computer, no charge for that. Fixed costs have been flat for the most part. So, administration, I'm pleased presenting this part of the budget. Recreation budget, this is the first year of a new supercharged.
Does anybody have questions on admin before Ed transitions to recreation?
Yeah, any other, because in admin, we had legal, engineering.
We've kept them flat in negotiations with the CFO.
Okay.
Most of those charges are, and legal is always one of those imponderables. You never know what's going to happen. Affordable housing comes under administration. Hopefully, that cost will be contained after June 30th.
Okay. And can you just remind me, for first aid squad contribution, why we were able to realize such a significant savings?
Yes. We're not alone. Every town has decided that $30,000, we're not getting the appropriate value from the emergency medical service. And we've now offered $5,000. In point of fact, in the old days, you would pick a hospital to send an ambulance to you. Today, if you call 911, you are guaranteed under the system they now have under MICON to have an ambulance. So we're looking to reduce that. We're now looking to selectively negotiate with a hospital to provide services on our 4 to 5 special days, Family Day, 4th of July, those type of events, to be present and available. But otherwise, in the new world we live in, you dial 911, Mr. Carnival, you're going to get an ambulance, hopefully within 10 minutes.
So the 5,000 is strictly to hire ambulance services for our special events?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Hines, one question on the grant writer. In the past, I don't know if it was this council, but I don't know if it was an annual report of what we applied for, what we won, what's pending, those types of things, just kind of a yearly scorecard of their services. I know we've gotten some great grants recently, but would you be able to supply that, or do you have that?
Specifically what topic, Mr. Kelly?
Grants, the grant writer.
And
Grants?
It's Millennium's report they do at year end.
Yeah,
So
they
we can
do
give you
send
the
us-
one for 2024.
Yeah, I
Tom.
have seen it, but I missed it, I guess. Is
Yeah,
that-
they do send us a report every month,
Yeah,
and I will make sure you get a copy of that.
that'd be great. Thank you.
I might add that they've been successful.
Yes,
That we pay them a monthly fee, retainer, but they bring us more money than we pay them.
yeah. And again, recent, very helpful and responsive also with Hannah
They
over
are-
there and
Yes, they are extremely
and the
responsive.
team, so thank you.
Anything else for admin? Okay, go ahead, Ed.
Recreation, of course, your eyes are going to be drawn to a large increase in salary and wages. You've heard comments in public before. We have hired a new recreation director at a, believe it or not, market-priced salary. I think we looked for 14 months to find a suitable candidate. We have found one. He is starting on April 14th, and we are paying him a market-price salary of $105,000. In addition, we have in this a full-time program coordinator that will assist the new recreation director. So you will see that line item will go from $98,461 to $166,072. This is for 10 months, for the rest of the year. Actually, On this budget, I looked at line 160. That is celebration of public events. Comments have been made in the public, well, why don't we go and talk to banks? We're actually doing that. Right now, there are 6 banks in Oradell. I've been to 4. Councilman Kelly will be going to some of them also that I visited. We've made a request of 4 banks to assist us with public events. You'll notice our public events this year in our budget is $66,335. And that includes fireworks, the 4th of July celebration, Family Day, and summer concerts. In other towns I've been in, the banks have made contributions to these type of programs. But you need to ask them. So we're doing that right now.
So getting back to personnel, the program coordinator, so we're gonna go from a half of full-time FTE to now 1.5? And what specifically will the program coordinator be doing?
I think the program coordinator is going to be helping orchestrate one allocation of the fields, set up, we have a system we haven't implemented, like the fob system for tennis.
Yeah, I'll speak to that a little bit because I had some input in this with Ed. So the coordinator, we're basically not realizing some of our assets to their greatest potential. One would be how our fields are permitted, where blanket permits are issued. We're not realizing time that the fields are down, where we're either spending money on lights and there's nobody on the field, or we could be permitting those fields out to a different entity and generating revenue. We also have things like our showmobiles that can be marketed and rented out and creating revenue for the borough. But there's also a move that we're trying to really look at how we get into the creation of programs recreationally, which, I don't want to go back to the days of Doug Parcells because he did such a great job on a part-time basis, but there used to be, basketball leagues on a Sunday night up at the memorial courts and other things, and these kinds of programs have dropped off of our radar as of recent. So whether we're looking at generating new programs that relate around tennis or pickleball or tournaments or basketball, the recreation coordinator will be working with the rec director, if approved, to be generating those things which will, most if not all, be revenue producing elements for the recreation program.
So I appreciate that, but similar, Mayor, you were rightly so asking a lot of questions on the part-time DPW worker. You wanted details. I would like to see more details, a job description, specific responsibilities. I understand what you're sharing with us now, but that's a pretty significant increase, and I just think we need more detail on exactly what this individual is going to be doing and what his or her responsibilities are going to be.
Yeah, fair enough.
Thank you.
Is that separate from the summer program coordinator?
That's separate from the camp program. But the person would also have involvement with the camp program as well.
The other point, just you talk about programs, is obviously is the seniors. I'm assuming they would touch there, and potentially there are programs over there for whatever that may, whatever that could be over there. The other thing, I guess, for revenue, et cetera, if you can educate me, that building over there, in terms of generating revenue, is it correct that it can only be used for seniors? Is there a way to raise revenue to rent that out and have revenue come in? I know we used to do it and then it was stopped because of the grant, et cetera. If you can, somebody can educate me there.
Laura? Yes, many years ago we were notified by the county that the building can only be used for community center purposes, senior center purposes, because that's how the grant was allocated. And if we were continuing with any kind of revenue-based programming or soliciting or renting it out, our grant would be in jeopardy as far as them being able to come back and basically asked the borough to reimburse all the monies for, I think it was 2 phases over the course
Yeah,
of
I think so.
20
But even
years.
if the revenue is raised for senior programs or that, it's irrelevant.
I mean, maybe there could be a deeper dive on that, but we
Yeah,
were
I mean,
just
it
told
could be
it couldn't be, we couldn't be renting it out to private entities in any manner.
I'm just thinking whatever revenue come in, have it directly go back to the seniors who the building's for.
Yeah, I mean, again, you could probably do a deeper dive. I know another municipality sometimes will bring in a vendor that's paying for the space to present the program to the seniors, and that revenue then is taken by the borough, and that's permitted. It depends on how the grant is written. Some of those towns are doing those programming in their borough halls, not in a senior center, so it would just have to be looked at. But we were
Yeah, maybe worth a
categorically
deeper
told it
dive
can't be rented
if there's
out.
any
Yeah.
potential there, I think. It's a great building, right, and great space.
So just one other question. So the individual now who's devoting 50% of their time supporting recreation is going to continue to devote 50% of their time supporting recreation going forward?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That employee's salary is included in that number. I'd like to add one supplemental statement. What you've heard over the meetings, the budget hearings, is operating budget. Tomorrow morning, you've heard people comment capital budget. Tomorrow morning, all the department heads are assembling in the caucus room with the chief financial officer and myself to prepare for the capital budget presentation on April 22nd. May 13th is the goal for the mayor and council to finally decide, the mayor and council, the 2025 budget. But the process is still continuing.
Right, I guess to Ed's point, our next meeting, we'll have time allocated to talk through. We'll have received by then additional information that was requested at our hearings with the departments tonight if they owe us anything, and we'll have time to talk through how we want to finalize the formulation of the budget prior to our public hearing. Do you have any other questions for Mr. Hines?
I have a process question.
Sure.
So, want to be done with Ed and then talk process?
Yeah, I think Ed concluded the last 2 departments that needed to talk through the budget, so we're on our time now. We can talk about whatever.
So, speak quickly. So we've now seen the budget presentation. Thank you. Now comes the time where we go through and assess if we want to make changes, et cetera. Will we do that next meeting? Because I know we need to move the process quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I would suggest following up with Katie or Ed in between now and next meeting about drilling down specific questions you may have about certain things or why they presented it in the way they did, but next meeting is absolutely the time for us to talk about, should this be in, we didn't account for that, we're missing something, what have you, before they then finalize the budget for the public hearing.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I guess just to complete that thought, so we got the date of the public hearing earlier. It's our first meeting in May. What was the date again? 13th?
13th.
May 13th. We'll have our public hearing on the budget, take public input, and then we'll look to adopt at the succeeding meeting the day after Memorial Day.
Great, thank you.
Any other issues to come before the council tonight? Not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.